to Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at Lead Live. Lead standing for Leadership Excellence and Achievement on Demand. There's so many of you all across this planet, brilliantly engaging moment by moment in living and living authentically, living in a way that allows all of us to benefit emotionally, spiritually, physically, otherwise. Thank you for choosing to be additive to nature itself. We're all part of nature, although we have a tendency as humans to talk about it in the abstract. We're integral to nature, or we wouldn't be here. And so we're blessed, we're fortunate. And today's topic is really aligned with that. And I want to ask you to begin to think, why do you think you're here, really? Really? Why do you think you were born? Why do you think you went from spirit form, from my humble perspective, into this human form, where you're in this remarkable temple with capacities that even scientists say far outperforms initial assumptions hundreds, thousands of years ago in terms of recorded history? We don't know what we don't know. But the more we find out about human consciousness, human capacity, wow, we're blown away. And there's so much documented, folks. If you've not had the time because it's not your predisposition, or you just not had the time because of other priorities to study some of the research, you will be blown away when you begin to do so, if you choose to do so. But you don't have to do it. What I encourage you to do is trust the essence of you when you go silent. When you go silent and begin to ask questions that typically you don't even think are necessary. But you begin to ask those questions. Why am I here? What's my purpose? How can I live that purpose with a level of freedom that enables me to pay it forward in massive way? So if I transition in the next moment, in the next month, in the next year, in the next 50 years, I will have left the legacy that I was born to leave. I'm reminded of a little boy. I never met the little boy, but I heard about his inherent genius from his dad. Years ago, when I was working at Sonoma State University in Northern California of the United States, one of the artists, I ran an art gallery called the Intercultural Center, among my other responsibilities. And this remarkable artist came in and was placing his work throughout the center for the entire institution and the community to view and to experience. And he looked at me and he said, "You know what my son asked me this morning?" And I listened, didn't say anything, because he rarely talked. And this traditionalist, he and his wife built a home in a part of Northern California that had no running water, no electricity, because they wanted to live off the grid and they wanted their child to experience it, to experience the essence of nature. He didn't have to do that, but he chose to do it. So I'm extremely curious as to what his son has to say. And he said, my son is looking out the window like he's looking out at a big vista. And he says to his dad, who's someplace else in the household, but within reach and within sound. And he says to his dad, "What is this all about?" And his dad tries to look where his son is looking. And he doesn't know what his son is talking about. He says, "What son?" And his son nicely says, quietly, confidently, he's not even 10 years old. And he says, "Life." And his dad says, in shock, like, "Oh my God, this kind of profanity, profound question, didn't expect from my child." But that was the whole point of he and his wife living in that kind of environment, to instill in his son a sense of openness, awe, and welcoming of nature itself. So he said to his son, with absolute disbelief in the question, but certainty in his understanding, he says, "I don't know, son." And then his son smiles as he's still looking out that window to the vista point, and then slowly looks at his dad and says, "You just don't remember." It shocked his dad. And his dad comes in, and his dad, he's tells it to his wife. The bottom line is there's a level of child within us that remembers the essence of who we are. And I encourage you to be like that dad, wanting to understand that son, and even more so, be like that child, being open to possibilities and asking the questions, even of elders who may or may not remember. Wow. I love that story. I forgot about it. And this topic just brought me back to it and being here with you. Here at Lead Live, and I frequently don't even say what my name is. My name is Elnora, or you can call me Tina, or you can call me Dr. Webb, or you can call me Elnora Tena Webb, and my birth name is Mitchell. I was born in conditions as a result of a 13-year-old choosing to give me life, and she didn't have to. It was a very painful part of her life, and it didn't end there. The fact that she gave me life allowed me to not only, when I recognized it, I think when I was born, I knew my origins. And I continued to remember them, even as I heard elders and then began to read documentation from court records as I was passed on from household to household. I remembered the sense of awe and responsibility. I was born to a child who could have harmed herself in order to protect me, could have harmed herself in order to not have to deal with the pain, the subsequent pain that was worse than what led to my birth. And yet I was born. So I have gratitude throughout my life because she chose to do it, even if she didn't know what she was doing. She could have done all kinds of things. And I'm here. And so this topic of actualizing freedom, act now, really is consistent with not only my lived experiences, my observations, my readings. Why not act now? Why not understand now? Or better yet, since I don't like no and not, act now to actualize the freedom that we all, I believe, come from, were born into, and have the capacity to better illuminate. Yes, I know there are different divergent perspectives. And I've made a point to listen to them, to ask questions of people over the years about freedom. What is freedom? And from my perspective, just reviewing, freedom in terms of Lead Live is about the wealth equation. Dr. Quindy and I chose to come up with that topic to illuminate what colleagues of ours are all about in the financial services industry. We believe that wealth is much more than just simply money. In fact, if you just have a lot of money, whether you're new money or historically money from generations passed on, if that's all you have, you don't have true wealth. True wealth is what? Faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. The 5 F's. We're going to talk more about that in a second. And so when people think of freedom, they don't necessarily think of faith. And yes, they do, some of them. They don't necessarily think of family. Actually, some do. Most think of freedom of expression, freedom to travel. They don't always think about fitness, and some do in terms of health. The freedom to be able to secure the resources you need to maintain your health. And more often than not, people think of fun in terms of freedom, the freedom to be happy, to be joyful. What is freedom? is self-determination, the ability to be with conviction, to be able to think, to be able to feel, to be able to act. That's one way. People say independence is freedom. Think about that. I say interdependence is a higher level of freedom. And interdependence meaning we need each other. Well, literally, we do. Even if we choose to be off the grid, we need something that someone else created, someone cultivated even prior to our imaginings by those who brought us into this life. We need each other. So I say interdependence is really an integral part of freedom. Emancipation, I think about folks who, like me, were young, like you. Some of you are still young in your teens, and you're thinking, oh my God, I got to get out of here. I got to have freedom. And so sometimes it's emancipation from some households, some elders who are taking care of us, our parents, or other adults. It's emancipation, I think, is a different in terms of freedom for Lead Live. It's freeing the mind, freeing the heart, open it to possibilities. Choice, the freedom of choice. The powerful aspects of us as humans is we get to choose all day long, every moment. And I know many of us say, I don't get to choose. I have to do this. Think about that. Think about even the have. What do you mean you have to? If you don't do it, what's the consequence? So you do have freedom. You can experience the consequence or you can do it. So choice. The power of choice expands with more knowledge. The power of choice expands. Your ability to choose becomes even much more precise when you understand what the context and your actual capacity is. Now, I already said scientists don't know our true capacity. That should be enough inspiration to say, get out of the way. Let me figure out what the heck I'm all about. I'm wired to be much more expansive. What can I do? What can I feel? What can I, oh my God. Oh my great spirit. Oh my universe. Oh my grandmother, grandfather, all corners of the earth, all seasons, all elements of life itself. The ability to act without constraint. External forces do not prevent any one of us from exercising our own choice. The ability to express ourselves in terms of art and dance and music, to feel love. That's freedom for some people. Doing what one heart desires. Thinking about a gentleman from Manila, Philippines. He stated in a video that I checked out recently, the power to create your own existence in this world. Wow. How profound is that? And we're going to come back to that because we're always in the act of creation. Every single moment of every single moment we get to be in. Whether we call it a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade, a century, a millennial. He said the power to create your own existence in this world. You can expand that to the universe. It's powerful. The act of creation is one of our powerful capacity. We're inherently able to create. That's why we have this microphone. That's why we have the all-in-one Macintosh computer, this Mac Pro. It's why we have these remarkable studio lights, one for the day, one for the evening, the camera that I'm looking into, this entire setup. Wow, this item that I can elevate, I can bring down, the clock, the iPhone, the Android, Samsung phone, the the mouse, oh my goodness, everything was a thought to begin with, an imagining. And then it went from there to literally instruments that we use. Wow. Powerful. A young lady from London, England writes, freedom is being happy in your own skin, liberating. Wow. On point. Why do we talk about authenticity here so often? Because we firmly believe that when you understand, even if you don't understand yourself fully, but when you allow yourself to be yourself fully, you're not trying to gain anyone or any system. You're not trying to be what someone else needs you to be. And I get it. If you've got to do it temporarily to save your life or that of your family, I get it. But short of that, why not be you? There's a reason why. And even in those circumstances, too many people have chosen to show up even if it meant their lives, because they knew the greater good was much more powerful and palatable and additive to life itself than their initial physical well-being. And they understood that spiritually they don't go anywhere. They're still they're back from to the original source. Buenos Aires, Argentina. This woman said, letting go of everything. Oh, wow. It's part of the tiny house movement. It's part of people were like, oh my God, that over 24 million people who in the US alone said, I'm tired of this rat race. I'm going to create a platform. I'm going to create an existence that I actually realized I could experience because of COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, it's so horrific. People died across our planet, loved ones, and too many of us, and me included, I'm sure a number of you experienced loved ones transitioning, and too many of them, we could even be there for them. It was horrific. But here's the powerful thing. We experienced during that time a lot of developments, and many of us found our voices, found our understanding that, oh my God, I could shift the nature of how I live. I don't have to work 24/7. Not only that, many found, because they leveraged us, and many other people found that they don't have to work so hard for their money. They can have their money work for them. Wow, so much happened. This remarkable woman from Mexico City, Mexico says, it's something we all have, freedom, but not many really know it. Wow. Simple. Freedom. What is freedom to you? Is it something that you have that you just don't pay attention to? Is it something that you have that you absolutely honor? I'm proud of you for increasingly honoring what you have. Moscow, Russia. What did this gentleman say? He said, freedom is love. Oh my goodness. My Angelou said that too. She said, life is about what? The whole growth process is about getting back to the essence of who we are, which is love, unconditional love. This remarkable woman from Slovenia said, freedom is time. Wow. We in financial services industry, and even as an educator, I would tell people, I wasn't living it, let's be clear. I would tell people, learn what you need to learn, acquire the competencies that are critical, do what's going to bring you the ability to build the life you want so you have your time. And a number of people I know did just that. And I am not proud of myself, yet I've learned from all those messaging. Took me a while. I'm in my 60s, but I finally learned. What did this gentleman from Jakarta, Indonesia, write? Or actually, he conveyed doing something without harming others. Freedom. So all of those individuals, and so many more, the billion people on the planet, we all have a definition of freedom. And many of them overlap. Some of them are qualitatively different. The point is, it's not necessary for them to overlap. It's not necessary for them to be qualitatively different. What is necessary is for each one of us to be able to define freedom for ourselves. This remarkable woman, I'll just say S. Gonzalez, she wrote, the ability to think for yourself, the ability to do for yourself, the ability to provide for yourself, family, and others, and the ability to believe in ideas and philosophies, the ability to create anything you want that doesn't infringe on the rights of others. Ms. Gonzalez, love it. At Lead Live, we think freedom really is the ability to be wealthy in each moment in terms of those 5 F's: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. We believe in thinking big. We believe in feeling deeply. We believe in acting consistently with intention. We believe in winning in all of those 5 areas: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. Think about it. What drives you? What gets you up in the morning? Hopefully, it reflects one or more of those areas because that's you. That's your life. Why is finance so critical? Literally, until and unless money is not needed on this planet for shelter, for food, for access, and other things, for us to live our dreams, finance is absolutely essential. But as I've said initially, and we've said historically, money in and of itself does not get you to the ends that you want to experience permanently. You've got to have that faith. You've got to have whatever family you choose to construct or already exist and you enhance. You have to be healthy, or it's irrelevant how much money you have. I mean, the money helps you ensure you've got health care taken care of. But if you are not taking care of your well being, you can fill in the blank. And then fun. I love to tell people now that I choose this daily, all day long, I choose to be happy. I used to always smile. I didn't even know why. And quite frankly, most of my life, it was a defense mechanism until it wasn't. And it was a defense mechanism of just to guard against all the detractors, the harmful stuff that was still happening. And I just put my own little space around that separated me from the other thing, not always effectively. Sometimes I allow it to enter and affect me. But the key thing is I allowed it. The outside world, the external world I'm a part of it. And yet I get to do what some people do remarkably well and arguably in a genius way that I have yet to experience. Go within and choose. And the degree to which we choose consistently what we're experiencing, we're mindful that it's what we've chosen. And yes, I do know systems exist, stuff happens. And even shifts in life happen that affects us. But it's how we respond to them, and not so much that they exist. It's how we respond to them that really matters. If we're just reacting, oh my goodness, then we stay in a constant state of increasingly even trauma, crisis. If we choose to just recognize that it's there and put our own, what do you call it? Whatever you want to call it. I don't even want to use a word. Put our own, it safeguards us. You define it. You describe it. You name it. When we do that, oh my goodness, we can see all the stuff happening. We can call it chaos. We're like in the eye of the storm where everything is absolutely peaceful, quiet. We're watching it happen and it's real. And we're doing what we can to steal it all. And then we move right through it, even as it's occurring, and we allow it to just create a separation so we can move to our next phase of our lives. That's what we're talking about in terms of freedom. The ability to be wealthy in those 5 areas. every moment. Faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. Why freedom? We typically think of freedom in terms of voting. We think of marriage and housing and children, having freedom to access the water we want, the air, to be able to speak, to travel, go anywhere we want to go, quality education, food, those things, that we have those kinds of a freedom, and others, the ability to desire and to pursue what we desire, to express original thought, creativity that leads to increased productivity in our personal lives, in our professional spaces, enhance our entrepreneurial spirit where we're working, whether we're working in a business for someone else or in our own business, especially. And then overall quality of life enhances with freedom. And some people say, oh my God, how did you do it? You must have always been phenomenal. Remember that iceberg in the last Lead Live broadcast, Dr. Quindy and I revealed people see the tip of the iceberg above the water and they say success. Wow, they're looking at you and they say, my God, you're successful. But we knew you'd always be successful because you were born with a silver spoon. Your family was extraordinary, blah, blah, blah. And that may be true. It may also be true, stuff that no one ever knew about you, that you weren't born with the silver spoon, that you didn't even have a family. You were homeless. People don't know the real story because underneath that, what appears to be the iceberg is this massive structure underneath the water. And it had the hopes and the dreams, it had the struggles and the barriers, it had the threats and the fears, it had the opportunities and the leveraging, it had all kinds of stuff. And you kept at it, you were unwavering, and then everybody gets to see the success, but you know that you've got a foundation that cannot be blown away with the trigger happy somebody who says, oh, that's not anything. Let's push that person aside. And they realize they can't push you because you built the foundation. That foundation is remarkable. And let me tell you, as we've said a number of these broadcasts with a number of guests, and some of you have even commented, that it's not about what people know. It's about what you choose to focus on and you know about yourself. And you don't have to tell the world all your struggles. In fact, that's probably an inefficient use of your time. Maybe you tell them after you've accomplished everything so that people can understand, oh my gosh, that person achieved milestones. Whether it was a well-known person or a person that most people don't even know about, and they read your book and they find out, oh my God, look at all this stuff. And yet she did it. How in the heck did she do it? He did it too. What? What do you mean? Let them do that. As you're building, keep that stuff, focus, prioritize, move, move, move. So when we say, please act now to actualize freedom, freedom is really what you choose, how you choose to define it. It's all about your personhood. We talk about 3 types of freedom. It's freedom from, freedom to do, and freedom to be. We're really talking about freedom to be. When you are being, you do the right thing for you, consistent with that big vision you have for your life that adds value to the greater good. When you are being, it doesn't matter if there's constraints, external, whether they're governmental constraints, whether there are familial constraints, whether there are industry constraints. What you do is you use your creative juices. You use what we call the mental tools that we illuminate from time to time. You use your will. You use your reasoning skills. You use your intuition. You use your imagination. You use your perception. You use your memory. You use all those together. Those are your mental tools to be able to reprogram that subconscious mind with a new habit that you and still you use repetitively at least 90 days so that you are taking the action that leads to the kind of results that you've never experienced before. And before you know it, voila, whether it's a new policy that gives you the freedom of expression, whether it's a new system because people rose up with your facilitation and your help to change the nature of that system, and they did it in a way that might, people say, well, how did that happen? They don't need to know. If it serves the greater good, be happy and then study it later so that other societies, other entities, other organizations can magnify that, leverage it, and use that model going forward. So we say be first, be first. And then we say feel it. At the emotional level, you got to feel it. And then you take action in terms of planning, in terms of strategizing, in terms of implementing and implementing consistently. And then you witness this remarkable outcome. And I'm talking about whether it's a personal thing, whether it's a professional thing, where it's a combination of both. Really, we're talking about the genius of you manifested over and over and over and over again. We're saying to all of us, here at Lead Life, we say to all of us, wake up, act now, do the best you can now. Tomorrow, you do better than today. Next week, you do better than this week. Next month, you do better than this month. Next year, we won't even recognize you. Or more importantly, you may not recognize that old person. So you may want to take a video just for fun and go back and look. My goodness, I was saying that, I was doing that. Well, part of my growth. That means I've got more growth to do. Not just growth for growth, which I think is magnificent. I love to read, to learn more. And you don't have to do that. When you are clearly focused for a reason, that's powerful. You will experience the wealth. And my dog is barking in the background, and I think that's his way of saying yes, yes, yes. Or that's my interpretation. Types of freedom. I want to go a little bit deeper. Freedom, being yourself, who you are in healthy ways, peace of mind in your heart and in your mind. That's throughout every cell of your body and extends and vibrates well beyond your body. We don't even know where the mind really rests. We know it's not just in the brain. And we know that there's more activity going from your heart to your brain than the reverse order. So we always say heart and mind. And when we say mind, we're talking about that ubiquitous aspect that literally links all of us, all of humanity. It's a whole nother conversation. We'll talk about that research and we'll talk about those experiences in another episode. And let's go a little bit deeper. Faith, freedom. So we're going to talk about each one of these 5 F's in terms of freedom. So the first one is faith, freedom. What are we talking about, faith? We're talking about each one of us having a firm conviction. We're talking about each one of us being reliant on that firm conviction, trusting it, believing it, whether it's a philosophy that guides our life, whether it is literally a religious set of doctrines, whether it is a something else, a biological imperatives that we believe that are essential, whatever it is, that deep, unwavering, unbiding commitment is what we're talking about. And we're not prescriptive. We believe there's enough for every one of us. There's enough paths. We also believe, though, that we come from the same essence, we are part of the same essence, and we go back to the same essence. So however we magnify it, it's important that we be honest with ourselves. And so the freedom is the ability to go there, to not waver. That is, unless we learn something that allows us to expand and grow in our faith. Family freedom, our socially constructed choice whether they're individuals that we are part of because of ancestral lineage connections, or that we chose to bring into our lives as new partners, as new wives, new husbands, our as part of our we birthed these children, we adopted these children, we took care of these communities. However you define family, the ability to construct and choose to invest in a way that elevates, illuminates, and ensures the healthiest aspect of every member of that family. That's financial freedom. It allows us to do that in part. That's fun freedom. It allows us to inspire the creative juices and let certain things expel from the brain and the rest of the body that leads to greater health for every member of that family. That is faith, understanding our ability to love and love unconditionally and give and instill in each member of our family what adds value. When we come from this sense of more than altruism, let's be clear, we're talking about something deeply seated, and I don't even know that I have a human word to describe this level of investment, or it is literally unconditional. When you see that loved one, all you could see is the beauty and the remarkable aspect. Yeah, there may be nonsense going on. That person may have misrepresented. That person may be physically, oh my goodness, in one quarter of the planet, gorgeous, in another quarter of the planet, same person, not so attractive. None of that external stuff. It goes far deeper beyond that. It goes to the essence of that spirit. And a lot of it is initial projection. Let's be very clear. When we look at the other, we first see ourselves, I humbly believe. Or at least I've learned to recognize that that's what I'm doing. So the more I've valued me, I've learned I valued more people, even deeper than I previously did. And let's be very clear. Unlike too many of us, especially women, and yes, I'm picking on women right now, many of us across the planet, we tend to value and literally value others before ourselves, give to others before ourselves. There's nothing inherently right or inherently wrong with it. There's something invaluable, and societies across this planet have leveraged it. And yet, there's something that can be very unhealthy when we negate ourselves in the process. It's a lived experience for me. I've learned a lot from it. Doesn't mean what I've given, how I've cared has not been invaluable and people valued it. I didn't care enough about myself to take care of me in a healthy and deliberate way consistently in the way I did others. Oh my God, someone needed help? I put myself in front of a bullet once for someone. Yes, absolutely. And I didn't even think about my human body, didn't care about it because I realized I'm more than just this body. What can you do? If I can save this life, who cares? My point being is that we have a right to care about ourselves too. Not that I would change that act that I engaged in many years ago. The point is, whether it's an extreme act or a light act, value you too. There's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why we are each here. And let's leverage it. I was talking with a dear loved one yesterday, General Monroe. We'll have him on a broadcast in February. I'm so honored, assuming everything lines up. And he said, he just reminded me of the obvious for me. And he says, yeah. And he told me about what he does periodically, goes to part of his land and just spends time in the forest, etc., just clearing the property. It's in a beautiful area of the country in the United States. And he's just able to kind of dump things there, things that may be of concerning, etc. But the powerful thing when he was talking to a neighbor or someone nearby, and she was saying, well, I'm ready to go whenever God takes me or something like that. And he said, we're here for a reason. You'll be taken when it's time to be taken. But while you're here, take care of business. I mean, those are my words. I'm not paraphrasing him remarkably well. The power of us now is to recognize that in the area of faith and family, finance, fitness, and fun, we can do a lot. We're here to do a lot. Decide what your priorities are. Go for it. Hopefully it's part of a bigger vision where you're leaving a legacy now. I remember one of my nephews died. And oh my goodness, I felt like someone took a heart and they had just cut it in half. I felt that. I've only felt that twice in my life. And I was like, oh my God, this is what people say when their heart's broken. I mean, I literally howled like a dog. And I remember when I howled, when I heard from my sister that one of our nephews died. He's only in his 20s. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And without going through all the details, I remember after the funeral, because there were so many people there that the family didn't know, the more immediate family. And these were elders. And this young man went to school full time, worked 2 jobs. And as it turns out, he was helping elders in the community take out the trash, get groceries, do a myriad of things. And they were honoring him, and no one knew. He didn't tell anyone because it wasn't about telling everybody that he has this particular niche for helping people. He has this love that's unconditional for helping elderly in particular, and that he just wanted to be of service. He never told us. So that young man didn't live to the age of 30, but he had already lived a full life. He'd already left a legacy. We don't even know the number of lives he really impacted, except for that significant number we saw. The point is, when you know when you know your why, and it is literally your reason for being, and you're about that business, oh my God, life is awesome. That's why we say, actualizing freedom, act now. It's awesome. This young man, he was always happy. He was always dancing. I won't tell you about all the details, but this guy was always just hyper energetic because he was giving. He was constantly recharged. Family freedom, financial freedom. So we've already touched on that many times. It's basically having sufficient money now where you don't have to work, you don't have to depend on any source, and you can do all you want to do for the rest of your life. That's financial freedom. So whether you need X amount for financial freedom in your context, and it will serve you and what you're doing for the rest of your life, that's great. Someone else needs Y. Someone else needs M. Someone else needs L. You define that. Fitness freedom. Experiencing remarkable and sustained physical and emotional health that, oh my God, just accelerates your spiritual well-being and more. Or you're able to live in a way that the folks who know you are like, oh my God, you show up and you show out all the time. Doesn't mean that you're fanciful and you're doing something that you think is exceptional. You're so excited. You're so healthy that when you show up, it's like you can say nothing. You've literally cleared the room, energetically set the tone, and made the space even much more welcoming. And you don't even know you're doing it. And yet people who are physically fit and healthy in their mindset, they do it all the time. Think about it. You may be one of those people. And if you are, I'm so proud of you for being that way for you, and then paying it forward for the rest of us. Fun freedom. This is the area I like to talk about because this is an area that I got to tell you, quite frankly, I was pretty ignorant in. I did some fun when I was a little young, but not much. Without going into my lived experience as a child, let's just say a lot of it wasn't fun, but some aspects were fun. When my brothers and I or other people, we could go climb a tree so you can jump from the tallest point. Oh my God, that was exhilarating. I won't tell you about the stuff that wasn't so exhilarating, but and then being able to run, because I love running track. That is until I couldn't run track. And then being able to, oh my goodness, dance. um, just this sense of allowing myself to experience happiness, joy, excitement. Oh my goodness, can you imagine experiencing that every single day? And it's possible. And probably some of you who are viewing this do this like it's not a big deal. But many of us have a history of only that being an exception. And I want to remind us that we could do it on a regular basis. And I am so glad you're joining us, Jacqueline. Oh my, one of my dear loved ones from Martinique, met in Paris, now lives in the United States, worked for the UN. Jackie and writes, thank you, Dr. Elnora, for this great talk. Happy holidays. I love you, your family. Happy holidays to you. I don't know all of you who are looking at this. A gentleman from Cambodia sent me a private note saying, thank you so much. I know folks in Africa are viewing this. I know that people across the United States are looking at this. We are here to inspire, to provide you with some nuggets that you can use right away. And to the degree that we do that, we feel like we are fortunate. So why do we want you to experience fun freedom? Why not? We want you to be in the state of what? Thinking, feeling, acting in ways that facilitate joy. And you could do that literally every day. I'm doing that now. It took intention, it took a steady embedding of habits. But I don't know fun in terms of going and doing things yet. I have a lot to learn. Other than dancing for 5 minutes, turn the music on, dance, etc. I am looking to learn that. I know how to smile every day. That shifts things. When I'm challenged, I'm like, okay, where's the positive word that I'm looking for? Or where's the affirmation I need? I go do it, and then I say, okay, happiness. And then I do something weird, or I remember something very strange about myself. And one of my nieces, Zerica, and who is it? Tomoko. We were driving last night back from an event, and I was just telling story after story, a few stories about me that were absolutely hilarious. In the moment, extremely embarrassing. In hindsight, absolutely hilarious. You can do that too. But what happens when you do that? All of a sudden, you expand. And thank you, Mr. Black, a former Laney student. I am so pleased you're here. Let me tell you, while you're looking at this, whether through Facebook, through LinkedIn, or not LinkedIn, but Facebook, YouTube, social media, please do a like, because we understand with the algorithms, more people get to be exposed to this content. And we thank you for leveraging this Lead Live broadcast to edify you, hopefully, and definitely feel inspired to send us notes. If there's a topic you'd like us to focus on as it relates to the wealth equation or other areas of leadership mindset, leadership excellence, please let us know. So thank you, Jet, for the reminder to let people, viewers, to literally like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Jet, what you put in the comment section for people, the location of the YouTube channel, so that they could subscribe if they're interested. Now, why do we want you to dare? Who dares? Who dares to experience freedom? Something came to mind, and a number of people probably can think of lived experiences, whether it's a President Nelson Mandela, the Honorable Nelson Mandela, or we can think of a Malcolm X, or we can think of a Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or we can think of the white women and the black women among the suffragette movements or movement. We can think about people during Black Lives Matter. We can think about people fighting for immigrants' rights. We can think about people who are fighting for Asian Pacific Islanders who were experiencing so much threat in the last few years, especially the last year around COVID. We can think about so many examples of people who were either formally caged or in some way the system or pressures caused them to experience being caged like an animal. I'm thinking about individuals who, men and women, women and men, who have physically been caged and they were fed by their captors um, particular food, typically horrible food. They were fed how they were going to continue to be limited. They were fed very little light, if any natural light source. They were fed a type of touch that was limited to their touching their hard concrete or steel walls, or they were fed odors, if you will, that were foul. They were fed. I purposely use the word fed. They were introduced or exposed or overwhelmed with nonsense that was intended to break their spirit. And not only that, many were beaten. They were harmed in other ways. And yet, some under those circumstances literally were broken. And luckily, some of those who were broken found a way to build themselves back. And then some seemingly were never broken. And then unfortunately, some never recovered in this life. They went back to the spirit world, having not been able to recover from that devastating blow. We know that in so many ways as historical slavery, didn't matter where it's been on the continent. We know that in terms of current slavery that exists across the planet. The power is in what is in the mindset of the individual. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. The individuals, when they're asked, how did you survive that? It's incredible. It's unheard of. And typically the person says, I didn't believe my circumstances. I believed that I was more than that. I understood. There was a belief system. There was an understanding that was inherent in the essence of that person. Their heart never broke. That link to the bigger picture, that vision, that image of who they were independent of their circumstances was omnipresent. When we say act now, we say because you can, and we say use your tools to your advantage. Yes, systems exist, and some of them exist intentionally to harm humans. But whether they do or not, the power is not in the system. The power is in each one of us as individuals and then as collectives, choosing how we want to think, choosing how we want to feel, choosing what we want to do, where we can do it. And let me tell you what Buddhists remind us and what other remarkable people remind us across the planet is that you don't have to physically be moving in order to make things happen. You can be thinking that thing and have it so intertwined with your heart emotional connection that things just move. You can have the clarity of conviction. That faith is so remarkable. Understanding of your priorities, your freedom-related priorities. Doesn't matter what's happening in the external world, the universe automatically realigns things, and before you know it, you've manifested. I want you to understand our power goes far beyond what people say it is, and even far beyond what a lot of textbooks suggest they should be. Remember, scientists are still learning the power of the human mind. The governments, definitely the United States government, has done testing for over 50 years on the ability of people to remote view from where they're view all over the planet with success. Act now because you can. And part of that is breathing with ease, thinking with clarity, communicating a thought, even if it's to the self, but in strategic ways to those who can be in partnership, in alignment. Find ways to go where you want to go, whether you physically go there or you go there in your mind. Constantly create. Create with a level of comfort, greater creativity, predictability, so that you have that peace of mind that you've already imagined where you're going to be, and it's just a matter of manifesting. And the manifesting requires that you maintain that vision, maintain that burning desire. Whatever action, they're consistent with that great vision that you thought into existence. And the moment you think with greater clarity, increasing clarity, the moment the universe is acting. We're part of something bigger, folks. And we may never know what all that bigger is. But what I do know is whether it's the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who reminded us in 1963, on the March on Washington for jobs and freedom, when literally in this country, things were getting ready to take off. No longer was it just about Black, or Black in relationship to white, or Black in relationship to white and then the Jewish faith, or Black in relationship to increasing numbers of natives, or increasing numbers of Latinos, or Asians, or Pacific Islanders, you fill in the blank, or immigrants. It was about the big picture, folks. Jobs and freedom. What did he say? Fierce urgency of now. So we are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. Think about that. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. This is no time for apathy or complacency. This is time for vigorous and positive action. And then when he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize, he says, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake. Be awoke, folks. Young people remind us about being woke. He says, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change. We are change at our core. We get to choose the change we want to experience, or if we just sleep, it just happens. When you want to be the person who says, we need a way for people to be able to communicate and not have to travel under circumstances where we have a pandemic. Well, the genius of the individuals and the others who came to create Zoom gave us that capacity. The genius of the individuals that gave us the capacity to create StreamYard that we use here, remarkable. The genius of the entities that gave us the understanding about the internet so we could build it. And in this country, you and I, who are the taxpayers, funded it, and the government leveraged it, and where the military, and then made it ubiquitous through private ventures. We get to build now. Our innate right in terms of faith is our choice to live with unwavering and firm conviction, trusting our faith independent of sensory evidence otherwise. Financial freedom, our choice to edify the healthiest aspect of each within our family units. Financial freedom, or that was family freedom. Financial freedom, our choice to grow, protect, and access tax advantage family banks. I want you to think about that. We're going to talk about that in the future. sufficient money to pay living expenses for the rest of our lives, and any other endeavor we're interested in that's philanthropic, adding value, without having to be employed or dependent upon others, including any government resource. We're adding value. Fitness freedom, our choice to experience remarkable and sustainable physical and emotional well-being to continuously elevate not only ourselves, others' well-being. Fun freedom, our choice to feel, to think, to feel, to do, and enhance what brings happiness, joy, and excitement to ourselves, and in doing so, to others. That's why we want you to act now. Be yourself authentically. Leverage, leverage, leverage. Live because you can. You're here. And love because it's the foundation. It is the common thread that ensures that we all advance. We need each other, folks. Interdependence is a powerful freedom word to me. Yes, we have levels of independence in that, but the power of leveraging each other is nothing like it. You have expertise that I may never have and may never need. Your using your expertise enables me to be even much more remarkable. Folks, let's go from wherever we're at to that greater good, but even better to the greatness that we have within us. Thank you for being with us today. We honor you. We value you. We deeply appreciate you. We know that you are much more than what even you may be able to imagine. And we want you to be that greatest, remarkable, beautiful imagining. Why don't?